Hey, folks, welcome. Oh my gosh, end of the semester. Can you believe we're here? My gosh. Okay, so before I get started, I want to make sure that you can see and hear me okay. So do me a favor, chime on in there in the comment section and let me know if you can see and hear me. And if so, we're going to jump right into this. I have to wait a moment. There's about a 6-second latency between this. All right, Madison says we're good to go. Fantastic. Then let's do it. Hey, so this is what we are doing. We are looking at our final preparation. Mariana, thank you. Fantastic. All right, here's the way it's going to work. And trust me on this. No, you just bear with me. If you take notes during this review, take notes during the review, kind of mark what sections it is that we're referring to and take some little notes there, and then familiarize yourself with the readings that we refer to and maybe even the responses that you had in the discussions and the tests and so forth, then you are going to crush the final. It's really that simple. Take notes, familiarize yourself with the readings once again to kind of jog your memory, maybe refer back to your past discussions, and you're going to be totally set. Okay? So, with that, let's go ahead and get into this, right? So, oh, wrong button. I need to come over here and mark this. Okay, here we go. So, what I'm going to do in this final review is I'm going to break it into sections, kind of topic sections. And the first topic that we want to look at is critical thinking. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, critical what now? I know, right? It was way at the beginning of the semester. I mean, way at the beginning of the semester. So you can be totally forgiven for kind of forgetting a little bit about this, but that's all right. We're going to review it. So, what do we have? What does it mean that critical thinking is a practice of error detection in one's own thinking? Now, if you remember, go back to your readings and so forth. Critical thinking isn't about pointing fingers at people saying, you're wrong, right? It's about pointing fingers at ourselves and going, okay, how have I not thoroughly thought about this? How are my assumptions perhaps erroneous? How might I be expressing my cultural paradigms and my upbringing and so forth? It's kind of like the idea of assessing privilege, if you will, right? Privilege is kind of not really realizing how good you've got it and that not everybody has it that way, that good. And so critical thinking causes us to go, okay, what's erroneous in my own thinking and what do I need to adjust for it? So you'll want to kind of remind yourselves a little bit about critical thinking there. Now, if you remember, if you go out to Nutshell Brainery, my YouTube channel where you are right now, I have some videos out there on critical thinking and dogma and the difference between opinion, fact, and belief. All those things will kind of remind you a little bit of this, okay? All right. Be prepared to discuss the difference between rhetoric, dialectic thinking, and reasoning. So, rhetoric, dialectic, and reasoning. All three of those are different types of reasoning, different types of thinking. Go ahead and refer back to Edward Ng's discussion on critical thinking at the very beginning of the semester, and he discusses all three of those. So go ahead and find your discussion responses to those questions. You'll be just fine. Next thing we want to do is the next topic, I should say, is trade, barter, and money. Okay. By the way, just a real quick, you might be thinking, hey, dude, what's the deal with this right here? This awesome comment contributor reference to past lectures, and real-world examples. Well, this is a little game, a little system that I've put into play for next semester. I'm going to go ahead and do it in this, discussion as well, just to kind of experiment with it. Right now, I have had 2 people that have at least said, yeah, I can hear you. I wouldn't call that exactly an awesome comment, but I'm going to go ahead and list those as comments. And I've also had 2 people that have contributed, who have said, yeah, I can hear you. And Mariana is saying I can hear you as well. So that's 3 people who have come in. Let me make sure. Yep, I'm caught up there. So the idea is this way we can kind of track contributions and so forth. And next semester, when I do more of these sort of live stream lectures, there'll be awards and points and so on and so forth attached to it. But do me a favor as we go through this review. If anything comes to mind, if you have any questions, a question counts as an awesome comment. Or if you have any real world examples, or if you say, hey, that reminds me of this lecture, is that the one you're talking about? We'll go ahead and throw those in there and we'll see what happens by the end. Maybe we can make something happen. Okay, let's keep going. All right, trade, barter, and money. Okay, so be prepared to discuss the purpose of trade. Why do we trade? Now, you'll remember this, but just as a quick review, right? We have needs to meet, right? No one person can meet all of his or her needs. So I need stuff from you to survive, and you need stuff from me to survive. We can't meet all our needs. Furthermore, we have shortages and we have surpluses, right? I have a shortage of paint. All right, I have a shortage of paint. I'm going to go this during the break. I'm going to paint my new studio. So I had a shortage of paint. Somebody else had had extra paint, a store that sells paint. So today I ordered some paint. Okay, so there's a shortage and an excess, and we can balance these out to meet each other's needs. Madison says, by the way, is the exam multiple choice or short answer? Both. Okay, so when I say be prepared to discuss, that means there might be a short essay question there. In many other cases, there's multiple choices, so you're going to see both. Thank you, Madison, for asking that. Okay, so be prepared to discuss why we trade. We need to meet each other's needs. I have excess, you have need, or you have excess and I have need, and that way everybody can, push society forward. Okay, and we have a new folk. Waleed just came in and joined us. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's keep going. Trade and business has existed throughout almost all of human history. Understand how and why this is the case. Okay, we've had business going on in perpetuity, right? Going on forever and ever. Why? Well, part of it is that excess and need, right? Building community, things like that. So you'll just kind of want to review a little bit about why we trade. Ultimately, it comes down to meeting needs and leveling out excess and need. Okay? All right, next. Hey, be prepared to define barter. Okay? Now, remember, barter, whenever we think of barter, we tend to think of old world, hey, I'll give you 2 loaves if you give me 3 fish, right? That sort of barter. And yeah, that is totally barter, right? It's a way that we can trade and exchange goods and services without the need for money, because we're exchanging goods and services for goods and services, right? So there's your definition of barter. But remember, we barter all the time today. And I maintain that a ton of your life is made of the services you enjoy is from barter. So think of our entire online presence, right? I have a Gmail account. I don't pay for it. I have Google Docs. I don't pay for it. I have, access to all kinds of information on the web. I don't pay for that access. Um, we use all kinds of amazing, amazing goods and services that are free. They're not free. We're bartering for it with our personal information. So when we go into our settings and we say, hey, I don't want you to use this information and that information, then we can unlock or be denied access to certain services. So for example, when a website says, hey, by the way, in order to go forward, you have to abide by our cookies and our rules and so forth, and you have to hit the acknowledge button to go forward, you've just bartered, right? You've just said, yeah, you can go ahead and use that information in exchange for the information I'm about to get online. Yeah, Madison, you're right. We still do it, not even related to business. For example, I'll babysit tonight if you get me dinner. Yeah, as a matter of fact, and that's an awesome comment, I would maintain that a lot of our personal relationships, this is just me talking, by the way. Don't worry, we'll get back to the final. But a lot of our relationships is built upon barter, right? You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. We take care of each other. A good, solid relationship is based on giving, not taking, right? But all of it is this constant exchange going on. So barter is pretty much relationships. But the dictionary definition you want is exchange of goods and services for goods and services without the use of money. Okay, we're going to keep going. Alrighty. Remember the true nature of physical money. Marco Polo found that China had invented paper money in the 13th century. What do we mean by invented money? Now, remember, money is a universal abstraction of value. Now, what do I mean by universal abstraction of value? Well, first of all, when we trade something, we are creating value because I have something and I'm not creating value with it. You have a need, you're not creating value with that need. When we exchange it, you now have your need met and you can create value with whatever we exchanged. And I received something in return that I can then create further value with. So exchanges create value. Well, now, how do I take this thing called value and exchange it somewhere else if I'm not bartering with sheep and goats, right? Well, we need a universally accepted and recognized, symbol of value. And so money, I can take money that let's say that I sell you, I don't know, a dog. I don't have a dog to sell, and you don't want a dog. But let's say I sell you a dog. Okay, so I've got this money. I can take that money to the comic book store and buy comics. Yeah, I do that. And then they can take that money and they can pay their bills. And then those people can go on and feed their children and grow up to be little children themselves. Fifth Element reference. Point is, it's universally recognized. Now, when I say abstraction, money doesn't exist. I mean, yeah, the paper exists, but it's just paper. Abstraction is we've taken something that doesn't exist, which is value or the idea of value, and we have created a symbol that represents that value. That's an abstraction. And history is replete, and I mean modern history. History is replete with people who just one day woke up and decided that their currency had no value, and lo and behold, their currency had no value. Okay, I'm looking at you, Venezuela, right? So the only reason money has value is because we say it has value. If we say it doesn't, it doesn't. All right, so bear all that in mind. Remember, you're taking notes, right? You're going to be totally set. Okay, let's keep going. More about trade and barter. Once invented, how did money lead to the advancement of trade? Hey, Brock said, well, China's leader forced the currency to force the currency on the people to use. Yeah, actually, it's a funny darn thing about China and currency. They practice currency manipulation, which means they control the type of it and the value of it on the international markets. It's a question of force to use. One of the reasons why Bitcoin is kind of gaining, and all cyber currencies and so forth, is because a lot of folks want to be separated from the financial system. You cannot use the American dollar without participating in the financial system, and there are people getting rich off of it. And so things like, Bitcoin and so forth say, hey, nobody needs to get rich off of you just exchanging, right? So good point. And so we've got a new participant and we have a good point. Okay. All right. So, how did it expand trade? Well, here's the deal. If I don't need to carry or bring with me a herd of 80 sheep in order to trade, I just have these shells or these coins or there's these pieces of paper, well, then I can totally trade anywhere and very easily. And so what this does is it really expands, massively, the sphere of our trading empire. So instead of me just saying I can only trade with people with whom I know and who trust me in barter and so on and so forth, I can take this money and I can travel and I can exchange it and I can take it places where it's more valuable and I can avoid places where it's less valuable and so forth. So really, trade just blew up because of this idea of money. All right, so be prepared to explore that idea. All right, be prepared to discuss examples provided in the readings in which money plays significant roles in advancing business. So yes, money played significant roles in advancing business, as we just discussed there a moment ago. So you'll want to find sections in the text that really talk about this. You'll find this in Marco Polo. You will find it in the Vikings reading, right? And areas like that. If you refer back to your discussion, all that information is there. But really what it means is a huge expansion of trade, such as the Vikings, which we're going to bring up here in a moment. Okay. Be prepared to discuss, right? It's like I wrote this crap. Be prepared to discuss how the Vikings created multinational corporations going back as far as the 10th century. And yeah, they totally did, right? These Vikings, they were out there, kicking butt and taking names. So they're setting up massive distribution channels through their shipping routes, the sea and the rivers. They are creating, fulfillment centers. They were basically Amazon before Amazon was Amazon, because they were setting up fulfillment centers and distribution centers all over Europe, right? They had to bring in all kinds of skills, shipbuilding, navigating, security, commerce, finance, and so on and so forth in order to make this successful. They created syndicates and partnerships with other sort of companies and peoples and groups, if you will, in order to make all this happen. So once again, Amazon. When Amazon drops something off to you, that may or may not be an Amazon employee. That might be a gig worker, right? So, just like the Vikings, Amazon is creating strategic partnerships with individuals and other companies in order to fulfill our orders. So, yeah, they were doing that in the 10th century. So, go back to the readings, do a quick scan of that, refer back maybe to the lecture that I gave on Vikings and to your responses that you gave in the discussion, and you're going to be totally set. Okay? All right. Division of labor. Shifting gears to division of labor. Plato and Adam Smith both believed that everyone should specialize in one occupation. Why? Well, you know the reason why. It's all about efficiency and quality, right? Is I can't learn to do everything, let alone do it well, right? Therefore, what I need to do is find one or two things that I can do really, really, really well and sell that good or service to other people who have that need. In the meantime, I'll find people who know what they're doing really, really well and buy their services. Now, what happens is, first of all, efficiency. If I'm really good at something, I can do it really fast. I can do it really fast, right? So, like these nutshell brainery videos I make, I'm not as good as I'm going to be. Trust me, I'm still learning. But it takes me probably a tenth of the time to make one today that my first one took me 3 years ago. All right. So my efficiency has increased substantially. Furthermore, my quality has increased substantially. I mean, you've even noticed in these webinars and live streams that we're doing that the quality is increasing. My sound, my the visuals and the gamification and so on and so forth. And so when we specialize, efficiency increases and quality increases. And that means that if everybody in our community is specialized in something and they're really, really efficient and delivering high quality, then that means we all get to benefit from efficient, high quality labor, goods, and services. So that's why we do division of labor. Be prepared to define division of labor and its importance in business. Okay, well, we just defined it and talked about its importance. When it says give examples from several readings, so Plato totally talks about division of labor. Okay, Plato talks about it because he says that what's his name? Socrates talks about it, right? Socrates. All right, Bill and Ted's reference. But then we also have Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nation. He refers to division of labor. But then again, so does Marx. He talks about division of labor. So you can approach it from multiple directions, from multiple readings. Okay. Alienation of labor, that's Marx's reading. Be prepared to explain how division of labor influences your role in the economy and society as a whole. Well, remember, if you get good at something, and you're totally going to get good at something, hell, you might be really good at something right now, I just don't want to know what it is, then your value to the community increases because you've got skills. All right, night and day reference. Today's the day of movie references, isn't it? So if you've got skills that are marketable and that people need, then your value to the community and to the economy goes up. And guys, you already know this. This is why you're in school, right? I'm totally preaching to the choir. You're in school because you want to add to your skill set so that you can increase your value proposition to employers or to customers if you start your own business. So that's what division of labor does. You want to get really good at it. Okay. All right. Let's shift gears again. There we go. Right. And let's talk business and religion. All right. What did Tawney mean in The Social Organism when he said that religion tolerated economics but tried to modify it or to better align it with religious principles? Now, let's do a quick Tawney review, right? As we saw in this course, religion has always kind of had a tough time with business. That is until the Puritan work ethic came along, right? Then things shifted, but we'll come back to that in a moment. But here's what Tani points out is that religion really kind of had four approaches to business in the beginning. One was don't have anything to do with it. Asceticism. Don't have anything to do with it. Another was, you know what? Religion and business, those are two different things. You can be a good business leader and you can be a good religious follower, and you don't have to worry about the two intermixing. You can bifurcate that and be just fine, okay? A third approach was, all right, listen, we actually want to participate in business as religion, but we're going to try to change it to be more aligned with our views and our opinions and so forth. And so this is where we see things like, well, the United Order in early Utah history, right? Where, okay, we're going to actually try to create an economy of our own that aligns more with our values rather than the values of capitalism. And then the fourth approach that Tani talked about was, you know what? We need to put up with business, but we're going to control the hell out of it. We're going to totally regulate it and monitor it. So in the case of Utah, alcohol can only be sold in state-run liquor stores. That's an example. Or across the United States right now with the legalization of marijuana, we're saying, okay, we can legalize it, but we're really going to control it. These are the four approaches that Tani talked about. So I recommend that you kind of review those and so forth and be prepared to kind of discuss those, or at least answer it correctly when you see a multiple choice question. Okay. What group came up with the idea that people were expected to take part to take the opportunity to make a profit when it was given? Okay, I'm just going to tell you, these are the Protestants, right? These are the Calvinists. The Calvinist Protestants, they were the ones who totally turned this on its head and said, not only is business permissible by the dogma of religion, it's actually mandated. It is required, right? So the Protestants are the ones who said, hey, look at the parable of Jesus and the talents, of the master and the talents. It was the people who earned interest on their master's talents that were blessed, but the person who did not earn an interest on those talents was not blessed. Ergo, say the Protestants, we are required by religious edict to invest money and make money. All right? Now, of course, they couldn't spend it, so they had to invest it, and this is what, helped capitalism blow up. So, review the Puritan work ethic, the Protestant work ethic. That we went over. Look at the reading. You can look at the lecture, all that good stuff. Okay, let's now talk about capitalism and the free markets. Okay, in the economic revolution, Hellbronner says the market system with its essential components of land, labor, and capital was born in agony, an agony that began in the 13th century and did not run its course until well into the 19th century. What did he mean by this? Well, I brought this up a ton in my lectures, and so those of you who have been following my lectures know what I'm talking about. Some of you might not have been following my lectures, so just a quick reminder. What he's talking about here is labor and capital management, right? You need two sides of this coin for the system to work. You need landowners and capital owners. You need factories. You need machines. You need access to resources, land, all that good stuff. And then you need people, you need labor, you need people to tote that bale and pull that lever and create all this cool stuff in those factories. Well, the problem is these two sides don't always see eye to eye. Now, I probably don't need to tell you this, but employees and managers don't always get along, right? And this started way back when all the people who controlled the capital and controlled the capital and the wealth and the land and all that came to loggerheads with labor, the people who were actually producing the stuff. Now, this started way back in what does it say, 13th century? And he said it did not run its course until well into the 19th. I don't know that it's run its course. I mean, we still have big business kind of running the world, right? So, okay, I'm going to get on a soapbox for a moment. All this gig work that we're doing, right? All this work that does not include retirement and social safety net and so on and so forth. And companies are more than happy to contract out this sort of work because it's cheaper for the company. That's great for the company and the shareholders. It's not necessarily great for the laborer. And this is going to come back to bite us here in about 30 years. But so my point is, this has not run its course yet. This born in agony is still going on. Okay. Going on with capitalism and the free markets. Today, people, for the most part, can choose their vocation. But this wasn't always the case. In the past, tradition and authoritarian rule ran the show. What do these terms mean? Okay, guys, you'll remember this. In the past, before free markets and labor, there were really two main ways that work got done. One is tradition, meaning your family has always done this. Your family will always do this. It's what your family does. It's tradition. Okay, fourth movie reference, Fiddler on the Roof. So, for instance, my last name, as you remember, is Schiffbauer. Schiffbauer is German for shipbuilder, which means that it was probably the tradition of my family back in the day to build ships. All right? That was one way that labor got done. The other way that labor got done was what we call here authoritarian rule, which is really just fancy speak for slavery and subjugation and indentured servitude. Just in some way or another that somebody who's bigger and stronger and has more people in whips and guns is able to force labor from somebody else who has less of all of the above. So, for the most part, this is how work got done for centuries until free market came along and people went and said, you know what? I don't know that I want to be a shipbuilder. I want to do something else. Or I don't know that I want to be a slave. I think I want to do something else. By the way, the latter being much more difficult to get over than the former. All right. We're still fighting the effects of authoritarian rule in our society even today. But the point is, today we have a market system where people, for the most part, can choose their vocation, right? Okay, let's keep going. Be prepared to define and discuss the difference between the owners of capital and the laboring class, okay? Now, owners of capital, they're the ones who have the land, they have the factories, they have the means of production. They control the means of production. That's a term that comes up a lot. Whereas the laboring class, well, all they have is their physical labor, all right? Now, back in the way day, the laboring class, they would have excuse me, they would be craftsmen. They could make chairs, they could make cabinets, they could make trolley cars, they could make all kinds of amazing, gorgeous things and so forth. But then as the revolution, the industrial, thank you, there's the word, industrial revolution came about, we're turning craftsmen into knob turners and button pushers, and that's it. And so really all they have to sell is their labor. And so this creates a huge divide between the have and have-nots. As a matter of fact, in the reading of Lady Chatterley's lover, Clifford, Lady Chatterley's husband and the owner of the mine, said there is an absolute gulf between the ruling and the serving classes. An absolute gulf, okay? And so you might go back and kind of review that reading a little bit to kind of see, what he's talking about there. And of course, you can review the discussion write-up that you gave in the assignment, and you can review the lecture on that one. Okay. Continuing on, be prepared to discuss the Industrial Revolution, in particular the manufacturing of cotton goods in the 1700s. What it really just comes down to, guys, is remember the video you watched called Mill Times? This is totally all about mill time, so we're referring to that particular video. But what we're talking about here is building great big huge factories with lots and lots of looms so that we can be more efficient. We're not doing it in our individual homes anymore. These factories can be powered through water, right? They'd have the water wheel. That's the word, water wheel, to a river next to the mill. And so that would power the factory. And they could bring in all these folks, mostly women, to, man these looms. Interesting, women to man the looms. That really goes to show how gender-biased language is. Different class, we'll talk about that in a different class. Anyway, so they would be working these looms and so forth and produce massive amounts of product very, very, very efficiently, cheaply, with high quality. But of course it came at a cost, right? And so what were the costs? Sure, we have economies of scale. You'll want to look up and remind yourself in economies of scale. The more you produce something, the less expensive it becomes to produce. But the costs of this clash between owners and the workers really came to a head during this. So you'll want to review that a little bit. Okay, in Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith said that a country could not produce something that it can buy, or should not produce something that it could produce or that it could buy cheaper from a foreign country. Why would this make sense? Okay, so here's the thing. You do the same thing. Let's take foreign country out of the picture and say, would you produce something that you can get cheaper if you bought it? Now, I understand if it's your hobby, something you really enjoy doing, yeah, you would do it. So the intrinsic motivation is what you're buying there. So a lot of people continue to sew their own clothing, even though it's cheaper to buy clothing. But they enjoy sewing. They want to customize it, and it's a self-actualizing thing. But if it's just plain, you don't produce your own gas for your car. Hell, you don't even produce your own car. Well, maybe some of you do produce your own car, right? If that's, again, a hobby. Most of us don't produce our own food. We buy it. Most of us don't produce our own internet connection. We buy it. So it makes a ton of sense from the standpoint of efficiency to purchase something that you can purchase cheaper than what you can actually manufacture. Now, by the way, there are, in fact, some things that we want to continue manufacturing, even if it's cheaper to buy it. If it has to do with our national security and jobs and our position in the marketplace and so forth, there are some things we continue to make, like steel, right? We could totally buy steel cheaper from just about anywhere in the world. That's hyperbole, but trust me, you can get steel cheaper than what you can get here in the U.S. Why do we keep making it? Oh, man, because that's like the skeleton of a country. That's the backbone of our infrastructure. And we would really be over the barrel if we did not produce our own steel, okay? But the point is, it just makes sense from an economic standpoint. All right, last one for capitalism and the free markets, last page anyway. Be prepared to define and discuss the 5 aspects of capitalism: profit motive, private capital, free market, laissez-faire, invisible hand. My guess is you totally know these right off the top of your head. Profit motive is it's never enough. We are constantly driven for more. We constantly want more. We constantly want more money, more influence, more free time, more autonomy, more. No matter how much we earn, you will always be driven to try to earn more. No matter how much, you commit to something, profit motive drives us forward continuously. Private capital, yeah, land, factories, just things that we can own that produce wealth that are not easy for somebody else to get a hold of, right? So, yeah, factories, land, access to resources. This is private capital. Free market, anybody can do whatever they want, all right? You want to be a basketball player? Be a basketball player. You want to be a physicist? Be a physicist. You want to be a truck driver? Be a truck driver. You want to be a teacher? Be a teacher. Free market. Sell whatever you want. All right? Buy whatever you want. There, we go to the toothpaste aisle. There's 847 different kinds of toothpaste. You have nobody telling you what kind to buy. By the way, free market also says competition. All right? Remember that. We can compete freely, and the market will decide who wins. Laissez-faire, no regulation. Get rid of regulation, right? Regulation only tries to control what can't or shouldn't be controlled. Let the free market decide who wins. And then finally, the invisible hand. You remember the invisible hand. This is that funky-ass philosophy that weirdly makes sense, even though in our heads it doesn't. Which is, if we all act in our own self-interest, then we benefit everyone, okay? So, I know, it sounds weird, right? But if I do things for my own selfish reasons, then everybody benefits because it feeds the economy upstream and downstream, right? So, right now, I'm a teacher. Why do I want to be a teacher? I care about my students. Of course I care about my students. I love my students. This is why I invest in this. This is why I enjoy doing it. If anything, you've learned I have a passion for this crap, right? But you know what? It's not like every day I wake up and say, oh, I really hope I can help Bob, right? It's every day I wake up and think, okay, I need to earn some Benjamins. Actually, we're not paid Benjamins. We're paid more like, I don't know, Franklin's? Maybe it's Franklin's. Anyway, okay, it's because I got to earn a living. I got to pay for my home. I need to, raise my family and so on and so forth. But hopefully you benefit. Same way, when you woke up and got into class, right? You, all 13 of you who are with me right now and others who are watching later on, you're not doing it because you're like, I really like Lon and I want to support his live stream. No. You're like, I totally want this information because I want to ace the test. You're here for selfish reasons, and yet I'm benefiting. Okay? That's the invisible hand. Be prepared to discuss Potter's take on the American economic system. Remember, David Potter, in his reading, The American Economic System, said, yeah, we practice capitalism, but we actually have some nuances to our capitalism that are more kind of socialist. Well, why? Well, because we believe that we should be able to have people move up in standard of living. We believe in equal access to wealth, and that wealth generates wealth, so access to capital. We believe that people should have equal opportunities and so forth. These are just kind of built into our American fiber, if you will. And so we create an economic system that, yes, is capitalism, but really tries to open up the opportunities of capitalism to as many people as possible. So therefore, as a Salt Lake Community College student, 60% of your tuition is subsidized by the state. Why do we do that? Because we want equal access to a higher education for as many people as we can, right? So that's an example of where our form of capitalism is somewhat nuanced based on our values as Americans. Now, by the way, every form of capitalism on the earth is nuanced based on the values of that country. There is no such thing as pure capitalism, but you'll want to understand why is American capitalism the way it is. So review the David Potter reading of American Economic System. Look at your discussion responses. Review my video real quick, and you'll be set. Okay. Hey, you know what? Capitalism rocks. Capitalism is great. That doesn't mean it doesn't have its problems. Okay, capitalism totally has problems. It's my economic system of choice, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be trying to find ways to improve it. What are the things that need improving? Well, according to Karl Marx, why does he believe that the more a worker produces, the poorer he becomes? So you'll want to look at Marx's reading on alienation of labor or alienated labor, because he talks about this. Frankly, it comes down to the fact that the more and more he produces, the more he gives of himself, but he's not gaining any value for himself. He's gaining more value for the capital owner, for the factory owner, and so forth. So, I mean, you know this. For example, let's just say you work at McDonald's. I don't know. Maybe you had a job at McDonald's once. A couple of my kids did. Well, if you are more efficient and work faster than anybody else, you're not paid more. But that McDonald's owner, that franchise owner, he or she will make more money off of your labor. So that's an example of where Marx says, this ain't cool, man. The fact that when a laborer becomes more and more efficient and produces more, but their wages remain the same, and yet the owner is getting more value from that labor, and therefore their wealth goes up, that's not cool. That's one of the problems he identified. Steelworker Mike Lefebvre, I have a shrine dedicated to Mike Lefebvre in my home. Cannot see the result of his labor. How does this affect his ability to take pride in his work? What would Karl Marx call this feeling? Well, Karl Marx would call it alienation from the labor. But why is it that Mike Lefebvre can't take pride in his work because he can't see the end result of his labor? Well, you want to know that your work is appreciated and that people are using your work and gaining value from your work, and that you are given credit for the work you've done, right? So this guy's out there pulling steel every day of the week, right? And that steel is going into big, amazing, incredible buildings, and these buildings are creating oodles of wealth for the capitalists. But nobody is in that building going, you know what, the girder that I'm sitting on right now, Mike Lefebvre pulled that girder. Yeah, this is a pretty awesome girder. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's giving him credit. As a matter of fact, when he's in a bar somewhere, they would just assume spit on him as talk to him because he's just a steel worker, right? You see what I mean? That's alienation of labor, as Karl Marx would refer to it. So refer back to who's and what's it? Mike Lefebvre, steelworker. Both the reading, maybe my lecture, your responses in the discussion, and you'll be in great shape. Okay. In Lady Chatterley's Lover, what does Clifford believe is the responsibility of the factory owner? Is it to give money to the poor or something else? Well, you remember this. He takes, and by the way, this feeling persists today, right? It's the whole idea of trickle-down economics. It's the idea that the job of a factory owner is to give work to people, to provide jobs. That's my job as a factory owner. I am the job creator. You've heard that term before. Everybody says these factory owners, they're the job creators. Well, Robert Reich, former Secretary of Labor under Clinton, says actually, you know what? The factory owners aren't the job creators. The consumers are the job creators. Because if consumers aren't buying your product, then you're not going to hire anyone to make that stuff. And if they are buying the product, then you're going to hire people to make it. So the factories are not the job creators. The consumers, the market is the job creators. And yet, what we do, and this is one of the areas in which we see a difference in conservatism versus progressives, is conservatives will say, listen, the best way to create jobs is to make sure that we don't tax the corporations, or at least not tax them onerously, because the more money we take away from the corporations, the less money they can invest in jobs. Okay, so that's the reasoning. If we tax corporations, then we take money away from them and we spend it on an inefficient government, which it is an inefficient government, rather than let them keep it and use that money efficiently to create more jobs. Well, the problem here is, first of all, you assume that the money that is being taken and used by the government is inefficient. Well, I'll tell you what, most of the time it is. But actually, the government does provide a lot of vital services, okay? We also assume that the factory owners are going to invest this money in more jobs. Well, no, they're probably going to invest it in more automation. Although the invisible hand will tell us, well, even automation is more jobs because somebody has to build those robots. So, in other words, this ain't simple. This isn't easy. There is no quick fix. Both sides, conservatives and progressives, are right. All right? So the point is, getting back to this question, I love this stuff, guys, is he believes that the job of a factory owner is to provide jobs, not to just give people money, right? All right. What's Mahatma Gandhi's gripe with machinery? His gripe with machinery is that it takes away jobs, okay? Gandhi's like, hold on. Let me see if I get this right. An economic system that says efficiency is more valuable than employment. We live in an economic system that says if I can find a way to use computers and robots and machines to do the work of 10 people, then I should put in place those robots, computers, and machines and lay off 10 people because I can do it more efficiently, which means cheaper, better, faster, all that sort of stuff. And those 10 people, they'll need to go off and retool and be re-educated to get new jobs. That's our system. And speaking as somebody who has benefited from and been stung by, I've been laid off like 3 times by that system, I know how it works. Gandhi thinks that is just obscene. Why on earth would you think it's moral to lay somebody off and replace them with a machine? Now, of course, you got to remember, Gandhi's in India. 1.7 billion people live there, whereas here in the U.S. we have 300 million. So the fact of the matter is it's a lot easier for us to employ 300 million than to employ 1.7 billion, right? So, he has a good point there. But that's his gripe with machines. Man and Machine by Mahatma Gandhi, that's the reading we're referring to. According to C.P.G. Gray, this was the video, Humans Need Not Apply, which types of jobs are in danger because of automation? Well, he makes the point that every single job is in danger because of automation. Not just the blue-collar work. It used to be, okay, well, you do blue-collar work, and you're going to be replaced by robots, just the way it is. Get an education, you loser. No, right? Today, blue-collar, white-collar, even jobs in the arts are being replaced by machines, okay? So Gray in Humans Need Not Apply makes the case that all jobs are at risk. However, because you went through the lecture and you did some of the readings that I provided and so forth, you know that actually there are, regardless of the job, there are certain things that you can do, and please do them. I want you to have a good, awesome job for your whole career. There are things that you can do to ensure that you are employable. If you are doing jobs that require a high degree of emotional intelligence, problem solving, critical thinking, ability to work in ambiguity with problems that are not repeatable, that just kind of, are unique, each and every one of them. If you can be successful in that environment, you, my friend, have a job. Okay? All right. Why wouldn't Leonard Read in I, Pencil agree that modern industrial work is degrading and exploitative? Well, Read is the one who talks about invisible hand. Yes, it's Adam Smith in Wealth of Nation who introduced the idea of the invisible hand, but it's in I, Pencil that Leonard Read kind of gives the example of no one person can make a pencil. It takes an invisible hand to do it. Well, the invisible hand says that even if somebody is acting selfishly, you're creating work and wealth and opportunity for the entire community. And so ultimately, any work and wealth and opportunity it creates is something that can be taken advantage of by any number of people. And so, there's always an opportunity. So it's the idea that some work is, degrading and exploitative. He would take issue with that because he'd say the invisible hand in a free market allows everyone to benefit. Now, by the way, it's only partially true because you have to have the means to take advantage of the opportunity. You have to have mobility on your side. You have to have some degree of access to capital and resources and so forth. But that's the take that Read would have. Okay. Potential solutions to these problems with capitalism. How would Andrew Carnegie, in Employer's View of the Labor Question, try to improve the relationship between labor and capital? Now, remember, Andrew Carnegie was totally cool because he's like a totally, dyed-in-the-wool, hard-nosed, cold-hearted capitalist. He wants to make money like the rest of his robber barons. But he knows that in order to make money, there has to be no stop in production. Remember, he was like, never stop producing, which means he hated strikes. He hated lockouts. He hated, anything that would slow down production. So he said, listen. We got to do four things. First of all, the more money we make, the more we need to pay employees. They should have a share of the profits. So if our products are doing really, really well, employee salaries and hourly rates should go up. By the way, likewise, if profits go down, employee salaries and rates might go down. And yeah, we've seen this during the coronavirus, right? We've all taken a little bit of a cut if we're employed. Some of us may not be, right? So if you are employed and you took a cut, yeah, count your blessings. If profits go up, employees should get paid more. And we hang on to this idea today. Next thing he said is employees should have good management. I'm not talking nepotism like I'm going to hire my nephew or my, daughter's husband, son-in-law, that crap. No, we're not talking just blue-blooded nepotism. He says we need to hire the very best managers and train them. He also says there needs to be really good communication and arbitration between, the employees and these managers. They need to be at the table. And we need to make sure that there's no strikes, no lockouts, no nothing like that. Employees have a place at the table. And so now these are really progressive ideas in his day. Today, these are like, well, yeah, sure, totally. It's obvious you should do that. But these were progressive in his day. Okay, why does Andrew Carnegie, in an employer's view of the labor question, what does he mean when he says that managers are not owners and so have little interest in the welfare of workers? He believes that, you know what, in order to really frickin' care about something, you need to sort of have skin in the game. You need to be an owner. It's like, listen, many of you have already started your own companies. Many of you have done gig work or started a business and so forth, and you have experienced the fact that you care a lot more about your work and your service and your product and what you do and how you do it when it's your own company than when you're hired by the place down the street. When you're hired by the place down the street, if out of an 8-hour day you have 3 hours of downtime and you're just twiddling your thumbs, or actually today we twiddle our thumbs on our devices, or you're just kind of, lollygagging or brain dead or whatever, no big whoop, right? You're still paid the same. You're paid hourly. But when you own it, now you care. Well, now, managers who do not have a vested interest in the company or in their employees may not feel so inclined to invest in themselves and in their employees. That's the take he's taking there. Okay, science of management. Shift gears again. Shift gears. Science of management. Be prepared to discuss the key people, Fayol, Taylor, and McGregor, in the development of scientific management and their contributions. Now, remember, Fayol says, hey, we need really good managers and they need to be trained properly, and we need systems in place, policies and practices and systems that really kind of facilitate manager-employee relations and cooperation in esprit de corps, the body corporate, right? That was Fayol. Taylor's the one who did the time motion studies. He's the one that figured out how long does it take you to a worker to move this far to do what action, and what steps can we remove from this, and how can we adjust the seating and the positioning of things and the motions to get the most efficiency out of an employee's labor, basically treating an employee like a cog in the machine. And McGregor is the one who said, well, listen, management is situational management. It depends on the situation. A good manager is somebody who knows how to read the situation and the circumstances and apply the right kind of leadership and influence at the right time. So sometimes you need to be heavy-handed. Sometimes you need to be totally cool and understanding. Sometimes you need to educate. Sometimes you need to reward. Sometimes you need to coerce, if you will. It all depends on the situation. And no book in the past, like, the Book of Five Rings and Sun Tzu's Art of War, is going to teach you these things. We need true management practices in place today. So make sure you review those three dudes, okay? Be prepared to discuss how management was conducted before scientific management was introduced. Well, yeah, the way it was conducted is factory owners would hire their nephews and their sons-in-laws and their male cousins. So long as you were a white male and you were on the inside of the family, that's the only qualification you needed to be a manager. A white male inside the family bounds. So, yeah, those are management qualifications, please. And what manuals were they given? What training were they given? They were given the Bible and Sun Tzu's Art of War and Book of Five Rings, and said, this is how we do it. And so, no, you're not going to get good, strong managers with that kind of hiring and management practice. Why do you think Fayol in general and industrial management would say that allowing employees to exercise initiative was a great source of strength for the business? You know, initiative is awesome. I'm going to tell you something. My manager, she's the associate dean of School of Business Management and Marketing and so on and so forth. And the dean of this department, Dennis Bromley, so Barbie Willett and Dennis Bromley, they totally encourage innovation. Which means I can do cool crap like this, right? I can learn OBS. I can get the right equipment to make this solid. I can do cool things with gamification and so forth. I can add different things. And as a result, I am invested, I am jazzed, I'm psyched, and I'm interested in doing it better every single time. And that's what innovation does. A company that really understands the power of innovation allows employees to try new things, to see what works, to see what doesn't, and to go nuts with it. Okay? So, there you go. All right. Why would McGregor in Methods of Influence and Control say that authority will not always allow work as a means of control in the workplace? Are there other ways to influence people besides authority? All right, South Park reference. Here's the thing is, you know what, and you guys know this, employees aren't morons, right? There are ways for them to resist. They can do work slowdowns. They can do by the book. There's all kinds of ways they can do to passively aggressively resist. And so just saying beatings will continue until morale improves is not a proven system, okay? You need to cooperate with your employees. You need to work with them. You need to collaborate with them. Because they do have means of resistance. And anytime they exercise their means of resistance, you're slowing down production and losing money. So you'll want to review that section there. Be prepared to discuss the merits of situational leadership. We just alluded to situational leadership there. Not every leadership situation is the same. In fact, no two situations are the same. You can never step in the same river twice. So situational leadership means that really good, solid, ethical, emotionally intelligent managers can read the tea leaves and figure out the best way to approach a management situation. Be prepared to define Taylor's time and motion studies. We talked about that, right? Making sure that everything is very efficient in how an employee interacts with the machinery. And here's a freebie. The concepts of credit, debit, ledger, inventory, double entry accounting came from Luca Pacioli, 15th century. It's a freebie because I didn't go over it in any of my lectures. It's in one of the videos, the one by Dave I forget his name. All something. And it's a good lecture. And so if you watched it, you know what it is. But it's something that I just thought I'd toss in there for you. All right. We're almost there, guys. I mean, you're still with me. I can see the numbers, right? Dave Albridge, thank you. Thank you. So that gives us a new awesome comment, right? We're at 7. We're shooting for 10. Just so you know, we're shooting for 10. Thank you, Brock. Yeah. Dave Albridge, he's really good. It's a good video, and he's an excellent teacher. So if you've had him before, good on you. And if you need to take accounting, look him up when you register. Hey, register for fall. Register for fall. Okay. Consumerism. Be prepared to discuss important ways in which the purpose of business has changed from ancient times to now. This was actually one of the discussion questions in recent homework. I really want to make sure you understand this. So remember, in the past, the purpose was just basically to sustain frickin' life, right? It was to get the food, water, and shelter and clothing we needed to sustain life. And we had needs, and I have needs, you have surplus, you have excess. And so I have surplus in something else, excess in something else where you have needs. So we're going to train just so we can sustain this crazy thing called life. I think that's a Prince reference. Okay. That's what it was really all about, folks, is just kind of the community and taking care of the community, especially if you think about the reading that we did about Jacob Needleman, philosopher, where the whole purpose of commerce and business and money was just in sustaining the community. That ain't the case now. Today, it's about sustaining the economy, right? We are in a consumer-based economy, which means this economy cannot abide without us spending oodles of money, okay? The economy is absolutely dependent on purchasing, on commerce, okay? That's why we call it a consumer economy. If we stop consuming, the economy tanks. And you know this because you've seen it with the coronavirus, right? The economy is tanked because commerce has shut down, all right? It's shut down. That's different. And so why is that different than today? Well, first of all, it's a different kind of economy. It also means I want you to purchase stuff just to purchase stuff. And so, oh gosh, I mean, did I need this? Did I need this? I didn't need it. It just made me think of my wife. Look at my videos, you'll know what I mean. And so I have it in my office because it made me think of my wife. And so, yeah. Did I need this? No. It's just kind of cool and I like it. So I got it. We all purchase and consume things just because we can, right? And we're driven to purchase. That's how it's very different today. What does Galbraith mean by contrived wants when he talks about it in the dependence effect? Remember, if we need this economy to continue, and we do need the economy to continue, then we need to purchase. We need to buy. Well, with few exceptions, most of us have most of our physiological needs taken care of. You've got, for the most part, I don't want to include everybody in this because I don't know your circumstance, but for the most part, you have food, you have shelter, you have clothing, you have the things you need to survive. But dudes, you're not interested in surviving. You want to thrive. You want to do all this stuff. Well, the economy wants to encourage that. And so it makes you want things, contrived wants that you didn't even know you wanted. Okay, I'm building a new studio upstairs. Do I need a new studio? No, but I want a new studio. So I ordered paint today that I told you about today. Did I go to Home Depot to buy the paint? No, I want this really cool lime wash that they make in California. So I'm paying them to ship it to me. I don't need any of that, but I really want it. And so contrived wants. All right, be prepared to discuss why Galbraith doesn't believe that increased production doesn't necessarily mean the country is better off. Okay, I need to reword that because that's awkwardly worded. The point is, Galbraith says, listen, just because we're producing all this stuff that is just going to be thrown away anyway, doesn't mean the country's better off. Because, yeah, we're purchasing and stuff, but we're producing all this stuff, and then we're filling landfills with it, right? We're totally filling our landfills with it. We're not self-actualizing. We're not getting things that make us richer as people, right? We're not investing in our education. We're not investing in travel. We're not investing in self-actualizing. We're investing in... Check this out. I ought to, like, turn on my other webcam or something. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 7 tripods over there. 3 of them are crap. Okay? I'm not better off because of that. The economy is. I'm not. And the country's not necessarily. Okay. According to Veblen and pecuniary emulation, remember this one? Why do people, accumulate and display their wealth to others? Bling, baby. It's about bling. Why do we display our wealth, right? Well, because we want to be accepted. We want to be perceived as successful, because if we are perceived as, okay, here's the thing. If I'm wearing bling, I am actually, Batman ring, okay? If I'm wearing bling, then that means I had money to buy the bling. If I had money to buy the bling, that means I am successful. If I am successful, then that means I'm smart and clever and hardworking. And if I'm smart and clever and hardworking, then you want to associate with me, because you need smart, clever, hardworking people in your life so that you can benefit and create opportunity from this. So displaying bling says, I'm all of these things. You want to be my friend. Don't you want to be my friend? Right? That sort of thing. My friend. Oh, gosh, what movie was that from? Anyway, and so how do we do this? Well, we do it by wearing what successful people wear, right? This is the pecuniary emulation. I drive a Subaru BRZ because, well, for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that Jeremy Clarkson on what was then Top Gear said the Subaru BRZ, or the Toyota version of it, was one of the greatest cars he ever drove. Well, now I want to be like Jeremy Clarkson, right? So I go off and buy the Subaru BRZ. It's actually a really fun car, but that's pecuniary emulation. The reason I wear these glasses right here, okay, is because one of my favorite authors wears glasses just like these. So I want to be associated with these folks. That is pecuniary emulation, and you do the same thing. Look at the brands you're wearing. Maybe not right now, you might be in pajamas, but you know what I mean. Okay. In what ways do O. Henry in The Romance of a Busy Broker and Jacob Needleman from Bill Moyer's interview assert that you shouldn't let the pursuit of money take over your life? You remember this one, guys. This was really recent, right? It basically came down to this. Oh, I want to say a word that I shouldn't say. Don't be a slave to money. Don't be a slave to money, folks. Take it from me. I've been on this earth for over half a century. I've been in a dozen careers. I've done well, but don't be a slave to money. Happiness is not in money. Happiness is in what money provides. So I'm not saying don't go off and earn a living. You totally need to earn a living. And I'm not saying don't go off and try to get money. You totally need money, because you need money to travel, for an education, to raise a family, to give them opportunities and all that sort of stuff. So you need the coinage, right? But don't forget that the reason you're getting the coinage is to live your life. Don't make the pursuit of money the end of what you're trying to do, okay? That's what Needleman and O. Henry are talking about. We're almost there. I promise we're almost there. Ethics in business. Be prepared to discuss how socially responsible actions are discussed in the greening of corporate America, often in companies' best interest. We talked about this in our most recent, or close to our most recent lecture, in which we talked about how companies that practice green practices waste less, right? Lo and behold, go figure, it's cheaper to use something than to throw it away. Who knew, right? And furthermore, it's great for consumers, because in a free market, consumers vote with their pocketbooks. It's also better for the stakeholders and stockholders, because they want us to take social responsibility. So in the end, yeah, it's really a lot better for the corporate bottom line to practice ethical practices. And there you go. Holy smoke. I told you we would do it. What a semester. Seriously, everyone, I want to invite you to just kind of sit back and take a deep breath and congratulate yourselves for a semester. I want to tell you why, just real quick. This has been weird. This has been a weird summer, right? It's one thing to, in the middle of spring semester, have COVID hit and all of us had to kind of make some shifts in the middle of the semester and so forth. But now you've had to go through a whole semester of strictly online, and you've done great. You've done fantastic. So I just wanted to say congratulations. You have every right to feel proud of yourselves. So take all the information that you got from this review. I hope you took notes, where to go for the information, so forth. Have that at your fingertips when you take the final, and you will crush it. Okay? So, and just so you know, by the way, my plan is in the future, when I get to 10 on any one of these, I'll have some confetti fall as a celebration. I need to then put in some music and so forth, so it'll be fun. All right. So I'm going to stick around for a moment or two in case there are any questions, anything you want to discuss at all. Otherwise, we are all set. And again, congratulations on the semester. Register for fall, and we'll see you around. Have a fantastic day.